Hear that? So that's a problem. Welcome back. Anyone who drives old Jeeps knows the frustration of regular repairs and modifications. But sometimes you get one that's particularly nasty. In this particular case, my check engine light is on because I have a bad clock spring. Now, if you do a search online, you're gonna find a lot of 2001 TJ clock springs available for purchase. And that's not a bad thing. It's easy enough to place an order for one, which I did. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. The challenge is, in this particular case, that part was not only not available, but completely discontinued. So what do? If you can't get that part at all, call the factory. They don't make them anymore. Most of the places that sell them because they buy them from the factory. So what are your choices? Well, luckily enough, one of the places that I work with in town has a connection with salvage yards across the United States. And they were able to find me the entire steering column of a TJ. And the hope is that this is intact enough that we can use it. How do we open this stupid box? But this is intact enough that the clock spring is actually working. Now it's a bit of a gamble. It's certainly a lot less than a brand new one would be, but there's no guarantee that this one will actually work. So let's see what kind of shape this clock spring is in. Should probably put this away before I stab myself. All right, well, let's hope this works. So that's the clock spring right in there. We're gonna need to do some disassembly here to get to it. All right, Ethan, you got your gloves on?
Yes.
All right, I got my gloves on. Ready? High five. Yeah. All right, let's take this thing apart. I can't see inside the holes, so let's get a flashlight and look inside and see what kind of screws it is. Looks like a Phillips screw, Phillips, just the two right there and there. All right, do you know what a Phillips screw is?
Nope.
Okay, I'll teach you. So, Phillips is the kind on the screwdriver that has a plus on it. Or a standard is the kind that's flat like this. So I'm gonna mix them up. Which one's the Phillips? That's right. Good job. All right, so I'm gonna put this down in here. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna put this down in here, and I'm gonna unscrew this, I hope. Aha, I think I got it. All we gotta do is take out this little connector off, and this just pops right off. Voila. So I pulled the TJ into the garage, and let's get the old clock spring out and get the new one in. It's gonna be a little bit of work. I couldn't find a steering wheel puller, but I've got a harmonic balancer puller that I picked up from my local auto parts store, which should allow me to get it off the right way. Cross your fingers. This shouldn't be terribly difficult, and there's a few videos online. I'll try and show you as much as I can along the way, but you know, hopefully this isn't ever going to happen to you, so you won't have to use the information in this video. But thanks for watching nonetheless. Pull my toolkit out of the JK because it's got a few pieces that I think will be perfect for what we're doing here. I think these small, long, or deep sockets can be exactly what I need. What I don't know is what size this bolt is. Is that too big or too small? I just don't know. This is part of the fun game we play when we try and figure stuff out on our own, right? Feels like it's close. The good news is, if you're following along and watching this, if I figure it out, I'll be able to tell you what it is, and you won't have to play the guessing game. All right, I guess it's a lot smaller than I expected. This is an 8. Is that an 8 or a 9? That's an 8. That's an 8. All right. Nice thing is these are on a slight angle, so it's actually a little bit easier to get them out. You don't have to fight against it too much. So that was easy enough. Moment of truth. Yeah, pop that. So we've got a couple electrical connectors. Look at this. So you can see we've got an electrical connector here on the back and another right here. There's one right here. Hey, quick word to the wise. Before you do anything electrical on a Jeep, always disconnect the negative cable on your battery just to make sure you don't mess something up or accidentally shock yourself. So if you're slightly confused about how these two wires come apart, you can just take a look at your new clock spring and you can see that this is literally just plugged in. There's no like tricky way to unwire it or whatever. You literally just pull it out of the back of the airbag. And then the other one is just simply a metal connection, just a two male-female simple electrical connection that you'll just need to pull apart. So that should be relatively easy. We're gonna use a flathead screwdriver, a small micro one, to do that. So I'm just gonna put this in and gently pry up. Pop, just like that, okay? Pretty easy. And now it's a matter of just pulling these two apart, which now I kind of wish I hadn't done that one because that was holding it up pretty well. And these just pull apart here. If you have trouble with it, you can use a set of needle nose pliers. So put one on one side and one on the other. Just kind of give it a nice firm yank. There we go, simple enough. And then the third connection, which is also part of the clock spring, is this green one in here. Little micro screwdriver. Pry it open and disconnected. All right. Now, believe it or not, that might actually be the hardest part of your install. So I'm gonna put the airbag and horn unit just over here on the workbench and my new clock spring, my new old clock spring. One note on the clock spring, be really careful you don't rotate this because that will break the ribbon inside and then of course you've ruined it. And as rare as these are, as rare as these are, you wanna make sure you take good care of this. So I'm being very careful and cautious with that. I'm gonna rest that nicely there. We're gonna leave those alone while we work on getting the steering wheel off with our harmonic balancer puller. Now, if you haven't used one of these, when you're using it as a harmonic balancer, you're gonna use these three, but in this case, we're using it as a steering wheel puller, so we're gonna use these two, because that's gonna line up with these two screw holes here and here. I'm gonna move that cable out of the way. But there and there, you can see that they're threaded. And the puller comes with a big variety of bolts here for various makes and models. I'm thinking that these are gonna be the ones that are gonna fit. So let's go test them out, or it could be those. So let's go take these and see which one fits those holes. All right, we're trying the silver one first. That feels like it just slid right in. Too small. Try the gold one next. That also feels like it just kind of slid right in. So let's go find the next size up. And it's just trial and error. Find the right size that fits that spot. And we'll try this next size up. And if this doesn't work, if we don't have the right size, then what the heck do we do then? All right, let's try this one. This feels like maybe, but also maybe it's too big. Definitely don't want to strip that out. I think maybe the threads on this are too small for that. So if not those, that's a set of 3 there. Then maybe these 2. Let's try that. And it really is a bit of trial and error until you get the right one. You know, most of the kits that you buy should come with the right size bolts, but if not, you'll have to go find the right size bolts. These are definitely too big. So I'm in luck because I purchased a long time ago one of these doodads. It's a fancy necklace for auto mechanics. It has every size of bolt with every thread pattern. And I should be able to take these. It's a little tedious, but be able to figure out what the thread size is. And then maybe I can find, so if you look at these, each of these has an inside part and an outside part. So I could thread in one side, find the right size, and then when I find that size, I can then bring it over here to my handy dandy storage of miscellaneous bolts and find a bolt or set of bolts that actually works for the right. And I can do that by screwing that into the other side here. So let's do a little trial and error. And if you don't mind crossing your fingers for me, it'd be really nice to get this within just a few minutes. Well, that was some effective finger crossing you guys did. Thank you. That was probably my 3rd try, and looks like it is a old man who needs glasses. Don't have enough light to see this here. So this is a 3/8-16 is the size bolt I'm going to need to find. So let's go see what we can find in the bolt bucket. Now the first thing I'm going to want to do is just double check that I didn't accidentally misthread or you know, do one of these wrong, because it should. Oh, look at that. That actually works perfectly. So some of the bolts that came with it are fitting exactly as it should have, and I don't know why it didn't work that way, but that's okay. So if you don't have the right bolts, just know that it is a 3/8-16 size, at least in the 2001 TJ, and that means these 2 bolts should fit great. Now we're going to take this harmonic balancer, we're going to put, I guess, harmonic balancer removal tool. We're going to put these in here like this, and then this in the center is going to push against the center of the steering wheel as we also simultaneously pull outwards. Now before we use this, however, we actually need to break the bolt and remove the nut, the center nut that is holding the steering wheel on. So that bad boy right there is what we have to get off. And if I had to guess, I would say that's a 13. Let's try a 13. One-handed. All right. Oh, I grabbed a 12. We'll try the 12 real quick. Definitely too small. Okay. 13. That's it right there. So a size 13 socket will get your TJ steering wheel bolt out. Now you could certainly have a friend hold on to this for you and use a breaker bar on this, but I'm hoping that this makes things a little faster. It did. That was fun. So, we're going to first take the bolts that we finally found were the right size and thread them into those holes. Okay, that holds this whole contraption in place the right way. Do it on both sides. Now you want to have enough threads in there that as you give it a yank, as it starts pulling out, you don't pull it out of the thread. So make sure you get, you know, some depth in there. Okay, so next, this rod is gonna go all the way down into here to put pressure on that center piece. Now there's a special tip on it. That comes with it. Looks just like this. And make sure that's on there, because I'm gonna put that in there and then just start twisting. And you can see as I twist, it's slowly pulling that out, and eventually it'll hit against these, and that will start pulling the steering wheel off. It's also important as much as possible to have these screwed in about the same amount so you're not putting torque on it in the wrong direction. Now on my harmonic balancer, this is a 19, so I could go in probably with a socket and an impact and just go on it. I have a ratcheting wrench instead. This will allow me to be a little bit more cautious about it and make sure that I'm taking it out nice and slowly. Again, not required, but I want to make sure I don't botch something up here. So, and I may find here in a moment as I'm doing this that I'd much rather use the hear that? So that's a problem. It cracked. Rather than come apart and pull this off, it literally cracked and broke. So that's pretty frustrating because, well, first, I can't finish this project this evening. I always tell myself, get good tools. Get good stuff that's gonna last. In this particular case, I'm like, how often am I gonna use a harmonic balancer remover or steering wheel remover? We used it on the YJ when we put that new wooden steering wheel on. We're using it now. This is now twice. Last time I used one, I rented a tool which wasn't available and it was all jacked up anyway. This is frustrating. Well, I mean, I don't have any choice. We're gonna have to postpone, go to the store maybe tomorrow morning and get a different tool. We'll return this one, tell them, hey, this is a piece of crap. We need something that's a little more hardcore than this. Disappointing. So, middle of the night, I woke up with a bit of a thought. I think the tip of this might have been too big for the hole. So instead of pulling the steering wheel off, it actually ended up forcing it against it. So let's go take a look. I think that's the point of this tip, is so it can be, you know, fit into larger spaces. And we needed a smaller space. And if this tip is bigger than that hole, which it is, what happened was, instead of pulling the steering wheel off, all I did was force it against itself. And, you know, I'm lucky that instead of breaking the steering wheel, this tool broke. So let's go buy another one of these. I'm sure it'll work just fine. I've also taken the liberty of spraying a bunch of WD-40 down in that hole, which should help soften it up. It's been soaking overnight. WD-40 is one of my favorite friends. Because it works for so many awesome things. So let's go pick up a new harmonic balancer. I'm not going to return this one because it's my fault it broke. So I'm just leaving O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I picked up a better steering wheel puller kit. Figure with as many times as I've taken the TJ and the YJ apart, and who knows what else might be in the future, I might as well get a good one. I got the same one that they use as the rental set, so it's a little more complete. The other ones have probably 2 or 3, different sets of bolts. This one has a lot more, and it's got choices for the center pin and all sorts of things. So this should be a nice addition to the Jeep garage. All right, before we get started on this again, let's clean up some of the mess. That's a little bit better. Let's get the right bolts for this. Get this set up. All right, there's a guide here that shows me which ones. So I'm gonna need these 2. I want this. So this is what you put here and here. And that will pull it up. And then I need this center pin, which is this. All right, let's try this again. Nice thing about this kit is you can put in the screws kind of separate. Again, you want to make sure that you don't go an uneven depth on these. You want to have the same depth on both sides, because otherwise it'll probably pull it a little bit wrong. Now, it looks like there's threads down there. There is definitely threads down there, and I don't want to damage those threads. And this pin is small enough that it probably would just shove in there and ruin those threads. So I'm gonna see what there is in the kit to kind of put a cap on there. I think that might work. Let's see if it fits on the end of this. Yeah, that's pretty good. Get out here to the point where it's tight. Now this kit's a bit smaller, so we don't need a 19 wrench. Instead, let's find the one that fits here. It might be a 13. It's a 12. I was right, it was a 13. All right, so. All right, starting to feel some resistance. Just want to take it nice and slow. This is why I wanted to use a ratcheting wrench and not an impact, because I want it to slowly pop off. And I think we got it. There we go. Now we're going to make sure that we route the cables through that hole the right way. So I'm going to carefully take these out and take my puller off. Okay, and that way I can take these wires and run them through nicely. I don't want to just yank. Now, obviously there we go. I mean, the clock spring's bad anyway, so it wouldn't matter if I totally jacked them up. But it's better not to ruin anything if we can help it. So, there's the old steering wheel. I'm obviously gonna want to do a little cleaning, get that nice and clean. If there's one thing I've learned, there's a high likelihood that I won't be getting back into that part anytime soon. And it's always nice just to get everything nice and clean before you, proceed. So, next we got to get that old clock spring out, which means we're just going to do the same 2 screws we did on the bottom there to remove this plastic housing. Hey, Ethan, remember yesterday when we were using that tool, did we use a standard screwdriver or a Phillips screwdriver?
Phillips.
Okay. Did it look like this? Or was it flat?
It was like a star shape.
It was like a star shape?
Uh-huh.
Is this the right screwdriver?
I think.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. It's always good to have some helpers to make sure you're using the right tools. All right, so Phillips head screwdriver. Let's go get this thing off. These got little plastic dust guards on them. I gotta kind of remove those. Pull those down a bit. And now this should just divide up. I'm gonna drop this down just a hair. That should give me some freedom to pull this apart. You would think. There it goes. If at first you don't succeed, just give it a good yank. Okay. Old clock spring off. We gotta disconnect the two wires. Same way as we did on the other one. And the clips are on the opposite side from each other. Oh, I broke the clip on that, but luckily it's the clock spring side. That is just disgusting. All right, let's do a little cleaning up, and then we can put the new clock spring in. Doesn't have to be extensive. I just want to get some of the grime and gunk out while it's open and exposed. While we're in cleaning mode, might as well get all this stuff that needs to be dedusted, taken care of. And it's just grime from, well, it's 2001, right? So that's many years of dirt and nonsense. Is it required? No. Do you see mechanics online all the time doing their repairs without cleaning a single thing? Yes. Does that always kind of annoy me? Yes. All right, next, let's put in the new old clock spring. Now remember, the connectors go on the bottom. We're gonna start with those. Plug that in there. Plug the second one in here. Snapped perfectly into place. Raise this up and slide this into place. So you remember me telling you that you should not rotate this because you could break it. What I noticed as I put this on is that this is rotated. If I were to put the steering wheel on exactly like this, it would be off. So I pulled the clock spring back off and I've gently rotated it. There's no resistance. I think part of the key is these tabs right here. See these tabs? This is what hits in here. There's a little plastic thing for when you're doing your turn signals each way. Then this is what, when you're turning, that bumps, the wheel bumps this and it ends up, that's what turns the turn signal off as you're turning. So I'm gonna line this up nice and straight, just right there. Get it put back on again. Okay, again, as straight and as lined up as possible here. And push it into place. And it doesn't seem to be resisting me. All right. I want this centerpiece to be lined up vertically and horizontally with the Jeep steering column. Okay, and this actually shifts a little bit left and right. That's not a huge deal, but again, I don't want to move that too much because I don't want to break any internal components. So I think we're in a good position there. Now at this point, if you feel tempted to put the steering wheel back on, resist, because we still have to put the whole steering column back together. We'll start first by putting the plastic pieces back into place, which is easier said than done. So it's all got to line up perfectly. Oh, okay, maybe it's easier done than said. I do want it to line up nicely. Okay, there should be some snap clips on this side here. All right, yep, I missed that one, that's why. Okay, and we have these pieces that need to go into place. Those kind of help to hold it, these little boots. But let's get the nice little snap on that side. I want to hear that nice little snap. There it goes. Okay. And I got my 2 screws. Phillips head, like Ethan told us. There we go, nice and snug. Okay, now I can work on my boots. Dust boots for the shifter. Nice. And for the wipers. So I'm kind of pinching in, kind of pushing it down to get it in the right place. There we go. And then working my fingers all the way around it. All right, looking pretty good. I'll make sure my tilt steering still works like expected. Seems to. All right. So with this all snapped together, it's time to put the steering wheel back on. Now I'm gonna probably wanna use a little bit of force with this. So I'm gonna take a second and clean up the tools that I was using earlier, or at least pick up the bag and move it somewhere else, because I might need a few of these as we tighten everything back up. So that's the nice thing about this Blue Ridge overland bag, is you can just kind of keep everything in handles. And none of it spills out. If I need to get to it, I certainly can, but that's good. Now let's get that steering wheel on. All right. So I want to make sure I run the wires underneath or through the hole. I'm going to start with the big yellow one because that's the harder one. It's the larger one to do. The others will fit in nicely next to it. So poke all 3 of them through the middle. The wires can be a little stiff, especially if you're working out in the cold garage like I am right now. So they might fight against you a little bit. Just be patient and pull them through. Okay, with the wires all in place, now I'm gonna pretend like I'm driving a fast car. If I can get it on enough, I can then use the bolt from this to snug it all the way. I'm gonna thread that in as far as it'll go. Then we'll get our impact to get it all the way down in place. However, maybe instead of the impact, we'll use just a regular ratchet so we can kind of slowly and carefully get it into place. Again, I don't want to strip anything. I don't want to break anything. Let's use a ratchet to start. And if that won't go, then we'll use the impact. Or we'll at least use the impact and a torque wrench to tighten it the proper tightness. Now remember that steering column bolt was a 13. So I'm going to put an extension on this. Make sure I'm tightening. Yep, I am. And I'm going to put one knee up against this to kind of support it, keep it from wandering. And because I'm pretty confident that I'm threading it right way, let's go back in with the torque wrench now. I love using that thing. Yeah, that feels pretty good. The torque spec on that steering wheel nut is 40 foot-pounds. That's pretty light. I would have expected it to be a lot heavier, but that's okay. I still am gonna pull out my torque wrench just to give me the peace of mind that I got the right spec. 30, 40, okay. be, again, holding this in place so it doesn't wander. Yep, we're good. All right, next is our electrical connectors. We'll start with putting this green one together and putting that post back in that steering wheel spot. Then we need to expose the wire on this one by pushing that sleeve back. Okay. And we'll take our horn and airbag assembly, and this one just gets pushed into here, and then this one just gets pushed into here. So we'll do the harder, stiffer one first. Boom. And just connecting these two together. And I'm gonna push them together, nice and solid like that. And I'm gonna slide that water shield back up into place. Voila. And now we're lining that back up nicely, and we just gotta put the bolts in. You know, this has been a much easier install than I expected it to be. I was expecting a lot more complexity, I was expecting a lot more difficulty, and honestly, if you follow my instructions that I've shared with you, hopefully they're helpful. I don't think it'll be difficult for you to do this. Now, is it always gonna work? And I've gotta be honest, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed if and when my clock spring doesn't work because it was damaged or it was a bad one to begin with or what have you, I don't know. Yeah, I'm really hopeful. With as easy as this went, again, with the exception of the steering puller that went awry there, I'm really hoping that I turn the Jeep on, that there's no check engine light, or that I can clear it and everything runs fine. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Okay, let's reconnect the battery and start her up. Let's do this. All right, moment of truth. The first question is, will the check engine light come on? I'm guessing it still will. It's off! Woo! All right, let's go take this for a spin. This thing is driving like a dream. Oh my gosh. Now there's some weird squeaks and other things that I want to start addressing, but I think that clock spring is perfect. It seems to be working great. The pep is back in its step. This is awesome. Let's see if the turn signals work. Turn signals both work, and let's see if they turn off automatically when we go back. Yep. They do. All right. That did it. Awesome. Junkyard find, 150 bucks for that clock spring. Saved me a ton of money. It was an easy install. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I hope it's helpful for you. Thanks very much for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Really appreciate it, and we will catch you next time. And see you later.